The dry afternoon wind hit my face, but it did not hurt as much as the 3 surgical stitches pulling at the skin under my blouse, and definitely nowhere near as much as the coldness of the voice I had just heard on the phone. I am Sarah. I am 68 years old. I dedicated my entire life to being the head nurse at this very hospital, and today my only daughter left me stranded on the sidewalk because she had a hair appointment. What she does not know is that a mother's patience also has an expiration date, and mine expired exactly 1 minute ago. I still had my cell phone gripped in my hand, so tight that my knuckles had turned white. All around me, people were walking in and out of the emergency room building. I saw worried faces, families hugging each other, adult children helping their elderly parents get into cars with a tenderness that caused a sharp stab of envy in my chest. I was standing there alone, holding a plastic bag with my dirty clothes and my discharge papers. The security guard, a young kid named Mike, who I have known since he first started working here, was looking at me strangely from his booth. "Miss Sarah?" he had asked me a few minutes earlier when he saw me shuffling out the doors. "Is your daughter not coming to pick you up? You shouldn't be straining yourself, ma'am. That was a delicate surgery." I had smiled at him with that mask of dignity I learned to wear over 40 years of hospital service. "Yes, Mike, she's on her way. Don't worry, honey." But it was a lie. The phone call had been brief, brutal, and completely numb to my feelings. Ashley, my daughter, my only daughter, the girl I worked double shifts for, the one I missed Christmases and birthdays for just so she would never lack a single thing. She had brushed me off in less than 30 seconds. I remember every word as if they had been tattooed onto my forehead. The phone rang right as I crossed the automatic doors. I thought she was calling to tell me she was in the parking garage or stuck in traffic. I answered eagerly. "Mom?" Her voice sounded mixed with the unmistakable noise of blow dryers and loud pop music. "Listen to me." Everything got complicated. My stylist just opened up a spot right now, and you know it is impossible to get an appointment with him. I'm not going to be able to pick you up. I froze. The 2 o'clock sun was beating down hard, but I felt a graveyard cold wash over me. "But Ashley," I managed to say with a trembling voice, "they just discharged me. My stitches are fresh. It hurts to walk." "Oh, Mom, don't be so dramatic." She cut me off, and I could picture her rolling her eyes. That look she has been giving me since she was a teenager. "It's 3 little stitches. The doctor said it was laparoscopic. That is nothing." "I'm at the salon. I can't leave right now with the dye in my hair. Just take a bus. The one that goes down the avenue drops you off right at the corner of your house. I'll see you later." And she hung up. Just like that. Take a bus. As if I were a package being shipped in the mail. As if being almost 70 years old with a freshly stitched abdomen wasn't an obstacle for climbing steep bus steps, dealing with a driver slamming on the brakes and getting shoved around by crowds of people. I stood there staring at the black screen of my phone. I felt a hot tear roll down my cheek, but I wiped it away quickly with the back of my hand. "No, Sarah, you are not going to cry here. You are not going to give them the satisfaction of seeing you defeated. I was the head nurse of the trauma ward. I have seen worse things than an ungrateful daughter. I have seen people lose everything and still keep going. The physical pain was sharp, a constant burning on the right side of my stomach. But my mind was clear, crystal clear. I looked toward the main avenue. The bus was coming, completely packed, with people hanging off the steps. Getting on that thing was suicide for my wound. I raised my hand and hailed an empty cab that was driving by slowly. The driver, an older gentleman with gray hair and a mustache, hurried out of the car when he saw me. "Allow me, ma'am. Allow me," he said, taking the bag from my hands and opening the back door with a chivalry that my own flesh and blood had not shown me. "Are you feeling all right? You look pale." "I just got out of surgery, sir," I said, settling into the seat very carefully, letting out an involuntary groan when the seatbelt brushed against my blouse. "Good Lord!" the man exclaimed, getting behind the wheel and looking at me through the rearview mirror with concern. And you are by yourself? You don't have anyone to go with you? The question hung in the stale air of the taxi, heavy with an uncomfortable truth. I do, I answered, looking out the window as the hospital faded into the distance. But it seems like I don't. The ride home was slow. The driver, whose name was John, avoided every pothole, every bump and every speed bump, as if he were carrying a box of delicate crystal in the back seat. He asked me every 5 minutes if I needed air, if I wanted to pull over, if I was comfortable. A stranger. A man I was paying for a service was treating me with more humanity than the woman I gave life to. I paid for her private college tuition and gave her the down payment for her apartment. As I watched the city streets pass by, I started to remember. This wasn't something sudden. No. This had been building up for a long time. I remembered last Christmas when Ashley showed up late for dinner, ate quickly while staring at her phone, and left saying she had a party, leaving me alone with an entire turkey and a fully set table. I remembered when I caught the flu 2 years ago, and she only sent a text asking if I was over it yet, without ever stopping by to bring me even a bowl of soup. I always justified her behavior. She is young, I would tell myself. She works hard, I thought. That is just how she is. She is modern. But today, with the physical pain drilling into my side, I ran out of excuses. She isn't modern. She is selfish. She doesn't work that hard. She just does not care about me. We arrived at my house. It is a beautiful one-story house with a garden that I take care of myself, my pride and joy. John helped me out of the car and waited until I unlocked the gate and got inside. Take good care of yourself, ma'am, and forgive me for intruding, but call someone to look after you. Don't stay home alone, he said before leaving. I gave him a generous tip, more than the ride even cost. He deserved it. I walked into the silence of my home. It smelled like closed windows and lavender. I shut the door and leaned against it for a moment, taking a deep breath. The pain in my belly throbbed to the rhythm of my heartbeat. I walked slowly, step by step, into the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water. My hands were shaking a little, not out of fear, but from a suppressed rage that was starting to boil in my veins. I sat down in my favorite armchair in the living room. From there, I could see Ashley's college graduation picture hanging on the main wall. She looked so pretty in her cap and gown, smiling like she owned the world. I paid for that smile. I paid for those perfect teeth with the most expensive orthodontist in the city. I paid for that degree. And now, that same professional woman was sitting in a hair salon, getting highlights, while her mother recovered from abdominal surgery alone at home. Take a bus. The phrase echoed in my head. I looked at the wall clock. It was 3 in the afternoon. The bank closed at 4. I did not think twice. The pain transformed into fuel. I stood up, ignoring the sharp stabs in my side, and walked toward my little home office. There, in the 3rd drawer of my wooden desk, I kept my important documents. I pulled out the blue leather folder. I opened it on the desk. There it was, my life insurance policy. A cumulative policy I have paid religiously for 30 years, a substantial amount of money meant to ensure Ashley wouldn't have any financial struggles the day I passed away, meant to secure her future, maybe even for the grandchildren that never arrive because she says she has no time for kids. I read the name of the beneficiary, Ashley Mendez, 100% of the benefits. I laughed. It was a dry, short laugh, completely devoid of joy. "Time is up, sweetie," I whispered in the quiet of my office. I picked up the landline phone. I dialed the direct number to the bank branch. I have known the branch manager, Robert, for years. He handles my savings accounts and my investments. He has always been very kind. One of those old-school bankers who knows his clients by name and not by account number. "Good afternoon, Mr. Roberts' office," the secretary answered. "Good afternoon, miss. This is Sarah Guzman. I need to speak with Robert. It is urgent." "Miss Sarah, what a pleasure." "One moment, please. I believe he is in a meeting, but since it is you, I am sure he will take the call." I waited with the hold music playing in my ear. I looked at my hands. They were a hard worker's hands. Hands that had cleaned wounds, started IV lines, comforted the dying, and rocked babies. Hands that had changed Ashley's diapers and brushed her hair thousands of times. Those very same hands were now going to rewrite destiny. "Sarah, what a pleasant surprise!" Robert's upbeat voice came through the line. "How are you doing? Weren't you supposed to be at the hospital? I heard you were having surgery today." "I'm already back home, Robert." "Thank you for asking." My voice came out steady and professional, the same voice I used whenever a medical resident made a mistake and I had to correct them. And that is exactly why I am calling you. I need to make an immediate administrative change to my accounts. Of course, tell me. Do you want to transfer something from your savings? No, it is regarding my life insurance and the trust. I want to change the beneficiary. Today. There was silence on the other end of the line. Robert knew Ashley was my only living family. The beneficiary? But, Sarah, your daughter Ashley is the only one listed there. Do you want to add someone else? I looked out the window. A skinny stray dog was walking by, fighting just to survive. No, Robert. I don't want to add anyone. I want to remove her. I want to revoke her status as the absolute beneficiary. Sarah. His tone changed. It became much more cautious. Did something serious happen? Look, these kinds of decisions shouldn't be made in the heat of the moment. Would you like to talk about this tomorrow? I am not acting in the heat of the moment, Robert. I am colder than I have ever been. And I am completely clear-headed. They just operated on my stomach. They didn't lobotomize my brain. If you can't make the change today, just tell me. I will find another bank that can. No. Please don't be upset. You are a preferred client. If that is your wish, we will prepare everything. Whose name should we list as the beneficiary then? Leave it pending assignment for now, or put it under the Red Cross temporarily if the system forces you to list someone. I will go see my lawyer tomorrow to draft the new specific clauses. But I want Ashley removed from that document today, right now. If I have a heart attack tonight, I don't want her seeing a single penny. Do I make myself clear? You make yourself crystal clear, Miss Sarah. I will handle it immediately. I will send over the digital documents for your electronic signature, and tomorrow we can formalize everything on paper. Thank you, Robert. Oh, and one more thing. Block my secondary credit card too, the one she has. Understood. Should I report it as stolen or lost? Report it for breach of trust, I said firmly. Just put it down as canceled by the primary account holder. I hung up the phone. I sank back into the leather desk chair. The effort had left me exhausted, but I felt a strange inner peace. It was the sensation of having cleaned out an infected wound. It hurts. It burns. It bleeds a little. But you know it is what needs to be done to start healing. I looked at Ashley's picture again. So pretty. So confident that her mother would always be there to solve her life, to be her safety net, her personal bank, and her shoulder to cry on. My cell phone buzzed again. It was a text message. I opened it. It was a picture from Ashley. She had taken a selfie in the Salon mirror. Her hair was wrapped in aluminum foil, and she was blowing a kiss to the camera. The text read, "Looking gorgeous. Sorry about the bus, Mom, but you know how traffic is. I'll be home tonight for dinner. Make something delicious because I'm starving. Love you." Make something delicious. Not even offering to bring me dinner. She expected to walk in the door and have me, freshly out of surgery, serve her a meal. I did not reply. I placed the phone face down on my desk. I stood up with difficulty and walked to the kitchen. I made myself a cup of chamomile tea and grabbed some plain crackers. That would be my dinner. I sat out on my front porch to watch the evening fall. The pain from my stitches was still there, reminding me of my physical fragility. But inside, I felt made of steel. Ashley was going to arrive in a few hours with her perfect hair and her cheap excuses, expecting to find the same submissive, self-sacrificing mother as always. She did not know that mother had been left behind on the hospital sidewalk. The woman waiting for her at home was someone else someone who had just discovered that money is sometimes the only language certain people understand. I took a sip of my tea and smiled out into the empty yard. Tonight was going to be interesting, very interesting. The silence in the house felt different now. It was no longer that peaceful quiet I used to enjoy after coming home from the night shift at the hospital years ago, nor the lonely calm I had resigned myself to since I became a widow. No, this silence had weight. It had texture. It was the silence of a vault right before it opens, or an operating room right before the first incision. I stood up from the porch with difficulty. The chamomile tea had gone cold in the mug, leaving a brown ring on the porcelain. Every single movement was a reminder. The 3 stitches in my belly pulled as if they were trying to rip open. A sharp, burning pain forced me to walk hunched over, but I did not care. Physical pain was something I could manage. I had painkillers in the medicine cabinet. What I needed to treat right now was the internal bleeding of my dignity. And there are no pills for that, only actions. I walked toward my bedroom. I needed to see numbers. I needed to see paperwork. For years, I let sheer inertia rule my finances. Everything is for Ashley. I used to repeat that to myself like a stupid mantra, but the inertia was over. I knelt in front of the mahogany closet, letting out a rough groan when my knees hit the carpet and my abdomen protested. I pushed aside boxes of old shoes and pulled out my portable safe, that heavy gray metal box my husband David bought 30 years ago. It weighed a ton, or maybe I was just weak. I set it on top of the bed. My fingers, still nimble despite early-stage arthritis, spun the combination lock. Right, left, right, click. The lid popped open with the squeak of unoiled hinges. There was my entire life, summarized in paper and ink. I started pulling out the folders, one by one, spreading them across the floral quilt. The first thing I grabbed was the deed to this house. It has been completely paid off for 15 years. It is a large property in a neighborhood that has skyrocketed in value. Prime real estate. The agents call it now on the flyers they leave in my mailbox. Ashley always said this house was old and dark, that I should sell it and move into a small apartment so I could give her the leftover money. "So you can invest in my business, Mom," she would say. Her imported clothing business that never quite manages to take off. Next, I grabbed the red folder, the downtown apartment. I bought that apartment using David's accident payout and my savings from 20 years of working overnight hospital shifts. It is modern. It overlooks the park and has a 24-hour doorman. That is where Ashley lives. I read over the occupancy agreement we signed 5 years ago, a simple document stating she could live there, rent-free, while she got on her feet financially. 5 years of getting on her feet. 5 years where I have paid the property taxes, the HOA fees, and even the fire insurance. She only pays for electricity and water, and sometimes she falls behind on those, and the companies call me. "My God, Sarah," I whispered, wiping a hand across my sweaty forehead. "When did you become so blind?" It wasn't blindness. It was misguided love. It was that ridiculous guilt felt by working mothers who spend too much time away, trying to make up for our absences by making life easy. I kept looking through the papers. I found my savings passbooks. I have 3 certificates of deposit. The money isn't a millionaire's fortune, but for a 68-year-old woman living alone, it is a fortress of security. It is enough money to pay for a luxury private nurse, to travel, and to eat at fancy restaurants every single day if I felt like it. And yet, I was still buying the cheap brand of coffee, mending my stockings, and taking the bus just to save a few bucks. For what? So that Ashley's inheritance would remain untouched, so she could inherit a neat little empire completely free of debt. I opened a small blue velvet box sitting at the bottom of the safe. Inside sparkled my grandmother's pearl necklace and an aquamarine ring surrounded by diamonds. Ashley asked to borrow them a month ago for a wedding. I told her no. It was the only time I told her no all year. She got so mad she didn't speak to me for 3 days. "Those old jewels are out of style anyway, Mom. Let me have them redesigned," she had told me. I slammed the box shut. Redesigned. She wanted to sell them or melt them down. I sat on the edge of the bed, surrounded by my assets. Reality hit me harder than my surgical diagnosis. I wasn't some helpless old woman who needed charity. I was a woman with real estate, liquid cash, and resources. The only reason I felt poor and dependent was because I had willingly worn the costume of a victim so my daughter could play the princess. She had the nerve to leave me stranded on the street with an open wound, yet she lived in my apartment, drove the car I helped pay for, and expected to inherit all of this. The balance of power, which I thought tilted in her favor because of her youth and my age, was actually entirely on my side. She had nothing in her name. Nothing. Her business operated in the red. Her lifestyle was heavily subsidized by me, and her future depended entirely on my goodwill. And my goodwill had just hailed a taxi and driven away forever. I stood up and walked over to my vanity mirror. I looked at myself. I saw the dark circles under my eyes, my gray hair slightly messy, my housecoat. But I looked deeper. I saw the Sarah who managed the trauma ward during the city earthquake back in '85. I saw the woman who kept her family afloat after her husband died. I saw the nurse whose hand never shook when inserting an IV line into a crashing patient. "They have underestimated you, Sarah," I said to my reflection, "and the worst part is you gave them permission." I remembered a conversation I had with David months before he passed away. We were in this very bedroom. He was already sick, sitting in his armchair. "Sarah," he told me in that raspy voice that stayed etched in my memory, "be careful with our girl. We give her everything because we love her, but we are raising a useless adult with expensive taste. The day I'm not around, don't let her eat you alive. You are strong, but when it comes to her, you turn to jelly." I got angry with him at the time. I defended Ashley. "She is just a young girl, David. She has dreams." How right you were, my old love. How right you were. The surgery pain flared up again, reminding me I am human, but this time I used it. That pain was my anchor to reality. Every throb was a warning bell. Do not forget. I looked at the clock. It was 5 p.m. Ashley had said she was coming over for dinner. Make something delicious. The phrase tasted like vinegar in my mouth. I went to the kitchen, but not to cook. I dug through the junk drawer until I found what I was looking for, an old notepad and a red pen. I sat at the dining room table, pushing aside the embroidered tablecloth that Ashley had stained with wine the last time she was here and never offered to wash. I started writing. It wasn't a letter. It was a battle plan. 1. Cut off her cash flow immediately. 2. Get back the spare house keys. 3. The apartment. I paused at item 3. The apartment. Kicking her out on the street would be drastic, legally possible but emotionally devastating. But then again, wasn't it devastating to leave me on the sidewalk outside the hospital? An eye for an eye isn't justice. It is revenge. But sometimes justice needs a little bit of revenge just to balance the scales. I wouldn't evict her today. No, that would be too impulsive, and I am a woman of strategy. First, I needed to make her feel the cold. I had to remove the invisible roof that protected her from the rain of the real world. I picked up my cell phone. I opened my banking app. My monthly pension had just been deposited. I transferred almost the entire available balance into an investment account Ashley didn't know existed. In my checking account, the one she sometimes accidentally uses to pay for her Ubers, I left the exact sum of $10. Next, I looked up the phone number for the property management office of the building where Ashley lives. "Good afternoon, this is Sarah Guzman, owner of Unit 4B, I said when they answered. "Miss Sarah, what a pleasure. How can we help you today?" "Look, there was a mistake with the automatic billing for the monthly HOA fees. Starting next month, I want to cancel automatic payments from my bank account. The paper bills need to be sent directly to the apartment and must be paid by the occupant. But ma'am, it has always been paid through your account. If it isn't paid, access to the amenities and parking garage will be suspended." "I am well aware of that. Please proceed." Hand the bill to my daughter. She will take care of it. Understood, Miss Sarah. I hung up. First blow. Small, annoying, bureaucratic. Just the way I like it. The sun was starting to set, painting the living room orange. I felt strangely energized, despite the lingering anesthesia. It was the rush of control. For years, my power had been to serve well, to serve fast, to serve with a smile. Now, my power was to withhold, to deny, to shut off the faucet. I realized I was hungry, really hungry, not just for crackers and tea. Ashley wanted something delicious. I picked up the phone and called the Steakhouse, a nice restaurant David and I used to love, but one I stopped ordering from because it was too expensive. Good afternoon. I'd like to place an order for delivery. Go ahead, ma'am. I want a ribeye steak, medium rare, a large mixed salad, a side of garlic fries, and a bottle of your reserve red wine from the menu. And for dessert, the caramel crepe. Excellent choice. How many place settings should we include? I paused, savoring my answer. Just one. Only send one set of silverware. I hung up and felt like I had committed a delicious sin. I was about to spend as much money on one dinner as I usually spent on 3 days of groceries, and I did not care at all. While I waited for the food, I walked back into the living room. I noticed details I used to ignore. Ashley's shoes kicked off by the front door since last week, her coat hanging on the rack, phone chargers plugged into empty wall outlets. She had slowly colonized my house, turning it into her personal storage unit and a drop-in hotel. I picked up her shoes. I didn't organize them. I threw them into a black trash bag. I grabbed her coat. Into the bag. The chargers. Into the bag. I wasn't going to throw her things away. I am not a monster. But I was going to get them out of my sight. I was going to clear the area just like we used to do in the ER before a procedure. My house was going to be my territory again. When the delivery guy arrived, I asked him to set the food on the table. The smell of grilled meat and herbs filled the house, erasing the scent of stale air and sickness. I poured myself a glass of wine. The doctor said I shouldn't drink alcohol while taking antibiotics. But one sip wouldn't kill me. I toasted to myself, looking out at the yard fading into twilight. To you, Sarah, and to your new life. I started eating slowly, enjoying every single bite. The steak was tender and juicy. It had been years since I ate like this. I always gave the best cut of meat to Ashley. I always served myself whatever was left over or slightly burnt. I like it better this way, I used to lie. What a terrible liar I had been to myself. Right as I was finishing dessert, I heard an engine outside. Ashley's car. My car. She parked in front of the house, pulling up onto the curb a little bit like she always did, crushing my grass. I heard her car door slam. Then, the rapid clicking of her heels walking toward the entrance. Her key turned in the lock. The door swung open, bringing in a gust of fresh air and expensive perfume. "Mom, I'm home!" she yelled from the entryway without even bothering to look for me. Ugh, what a day. Traffic was a nightmare, and my stylist took forever, but my hair looks amazing, don't you think? She walked into the living room, dropping her designer handbag onto the sofa. Her ash blonde hair looked flawless. Her outfit was brand new. She looked glowing, completely detached from any pain, detached from my stitches, detached from my loneliness on the sidewalk. She stopped dead in her tracks when she saw me sitting at the dining table with an open bottle of wine and the dirty dishes of a lavish feast. She sniffed the air. That smells amazing. What did you order? I'm starving. She walked over to the table, searching with her eyes for her plate, her glass, her seat. But the table was set only for me. I wiped my mouth with my cloth napkin using slow, deliberate movements. I looked her right in the eyes, those green eyes she inherited from her father, but which now looked at me with a mix of confusion and entitlement. "Hello, sweetheart," I said in a soft, calm, terrifying voice. "You look very pretty." The salon was worth it. Ashley furrowed her brow, staring at the empty table space in front of her. "Thanks, Mom, but where's my food?" "You said you were going to cook something." Oh well, you ordered out. Where's my plate? I took another sip of wine, letting the silence stretch out until it became unbearable. I already ate, Ashley. I had to take my medication and I couldn't wait. You didn't order anything for me? Her voice rose an octave into that childish whining that always worked to make me run to the kitchen. I texted you that I was coming over for dinner. Yes, I read your message, I replied, resting my elbows on the table and folding my hands. It said, make something delicious. It didn't say, order something for me. And since you left me at the hospital to take a bus with an open wound, I assumed we were each responsible for our own transportation and our own meals. Ashley's face changed. Her confusion gave way to disbelief. She opened her mouth to argue back, to call me dramatic, to use her usual manipulative tactics. But something in my eyes stopped her. Maybe it was the bottle of wine. Maybe it was the fat black trash bag full of her things sitting in the corner. Or maybe it was the fact that, for the first time in her life, her mother wasn't looking at her with blind adoration, but with the cold precision of a surgeon inspecting a tumor that needs to be removed. Mom, what is wrong with you? You are acting weird. I smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. I am not acting weird, Ashley. I am finally awake. And I think we need to talk about numbers. Sit down, but don't expect dinner. The kitchen is closed. She stood there, frozen, not realizing the ground beneath her feet had just turned into quicksand. Ashley pulled out the wooden chair with a sharp screech that made my skin crawl, but I didn't blink. She dropped into the seat like someone collapsing on a couch after running a marathon, even though her only effort that day had been holding a fashion magazine while someone else washed her hair. She stared at me, waiting for me to get up, to rush into the kitchen and whip something up, to heat a bowl of soup, to fulfill my eternal role as her servant. But I stayed right where I was, completely still, holding my glass of red wine up to the lamplight, savoring the taste of dark berries and oak fading on my tongue. The silence in the dining room was thick, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator and my own steady breathing. "So, you're serious?" she asked, crossing her arms over her chest and wrinkling her new silk blouse. "You're really gonna let me starve because you're mad about the taxi thing? Mom, seriously, grow up." It wasn't that big of a deal. I took another sip, letting the warm liquid glide down my throat. I am not mad, Ashley. I am recovering, and part of my recovery involves avoiding unnecessary stress. Cooking for a 35-year-old woman who has 2 functional hands and a bank account qualifies as unnecessary stress. Ashley scoffed, blowing air out of her nose in that dismissive way she does, as if she were dealing with a toddler throwing a tantrum. "God, you are so dramatic. Fine, don't cook. I'll order something myself. I'm craving sushi from that expensive place you like downtown. My treat, just so you see I'm not a bad daughter." She pulled out her brand new smartphone, the one that costs more than my entire monthly pension, and started scrolling with her acrylic nails, freshly painted a fierce shade of red. I watched her with the patience of a cat watching a mouse wander into a trap that hasn't snapped shut yet. "Go right ahead," I said softly. "Order whatever you want." As she browsed the food delivery app, her eyes drifted toward the corner of the room where the black trash bag sat against the wall, full and shiny. "What is that?" She gestured with her chin, not taking her eyes off her phone screen. "Did you take out the trash? Didn't the doctor tell you not to lift heavy things? I'll tell the cleaning lady to take it out tomorrow." "That isn't garbage to throw away, Ashley. It is a purge." "A purge?" She looked up, wrinkling her forehead. "Of what?" "Of my living space. Things that were out of place. Shoes that aren't mine by the front door, coats on the couch, phone chargers on the dining table. Everything that doesn't belong in the common areas has been collected." Ashley slammed her phone onto the table with a hard thud. Her eyes went wide as she recognized the sleeve of her beige wool coat sticking out of the poorly tied knot at the top of the bag. "Did you put my alpaca wool coat into a garbage bag?" Her voice jumped 2 octaves, loud and shrill. "Mom, that coat cost a fortune. Are you crazy? It's going to get wrinkled. It's going to get covered in dust." She jumped out of her chair and ran over to the bag, tearing it open desperately. She started pulling her things out: her high heels, a silk scarf, several tangled charging cables. She did it with the frantic energy of someone rescuing survivors from a collapsed building. "My shoes," she muttered, rubbing the leather. "Mom, this is unbelievable. Seriously, that anesthesia messed with your brain. How could you treat my things like this?" "I treat your things the exact same way you treat them, sweetheart," I answered calmly, swirling the wine in my glass. "If you leave them thrown on the floor, I assume they are trash or that you don't care about them. My house is not your walk-in closet, nor is it your storage locker. If you want to take care of your expensive belongings, take them to your own home, to your apartment." She stood completely still, holding a shoe in each hand, staring at me like I was a stranger who had broken into her mother's house. There was fear in her eyes, yes, but more than anything, there was confusion. The Sarah she knew would have hand-washed that coat and polished those shoes before putting them away in her closet with little lavender sachets. That Sarah didn't exist anymore. She died this afternoon on the sidewalk outside the General Hospital. "You are unbearable," she muttered, shoving her things back into the bag angrily, but this time meaning to take them with her. "I am taking all of this with me tomorrow morning. I am not going to let you ruin my clothes with your bitter old lady craziness." She stomped back to the table and grabbed her phone tightly. "I'm ordering my sushi, and I'm ordering the biggest combo platter just for myself, and I am going to eat it right in front of your face." "Bon appetit," I said, taking a bite of leftover bread from my dinner. Ashley typed furiously on her screen. She selected her sushi rolls, her appetizers, her drinks. I could see the screen reflecting in the sunglasses she had pushed up onto her head like a headband. Confirm order. Processing payment. I waited. 1, 2, 3 seconds. The phone let out a short beep and then, "You have a business. You have an income. If you cannot afford gas, maybe you should stop spending money at high-end hair salons and start taking the bus. They say the one that runs down the avenue is very good. It drops you off right on the corner." The blow landed with precision. Ashley took a step back, as if I had physically slapped her across the face. She remembered her own words from earlier that afternoon. The irony burned her. I could see it in her face, flush with rage. "This is revenge," she said, pointing a trembling finger at me. "You are doing this just to hurt me. You are so resentful. My dad would have never done this to me. He actually loved me." Bringing up David was a mistake. I felt a surge of heat rise up my neck. I stood up slowly, protecting my incision with one hand, but drawing myself up to my full height. Despite my age and my housecoat, at that moment, I became the head nurse who used to make medical residents tremble with a single glare. "Your father loved you, yes, but your father also knew that we were raising a parasite, and he died with that pain in his heart. I do not intend to die with the same regret. So starting today, the subsidies are over, Ashley. The bank of Mom is officially closed." She looked at me with hatred, a pure, crystal-clear hatred that hurt more than a surgeon's scalpel, but it also confirmed that I was doing the right thing. She did not see me as her mother. She saw me as an automated teller machine that had swallowed her credit card. "I am leaving," she said, grabbing her handbag and the black garbage bag. "I am not staying here to be insulted. I am going back to my apartment. At least I have peace there." "Ah, I am so glad you mentioned that," I said before she could turn around. "About the apartment." Ashley stopped, her hand on the doorknob. She turned around slowly, her face filled with complete distrust. She had already taken 2 hits. She was expecting the third. "What about my apartment?" she asked defensively. "It is mine. You signed the papers. You cannot take it away from me." "No, I am not taking it away from you. The occupancy agreement is valid, or for now, but I called the building management office today." "What for?" Her voice was a thread of anxiety. "To correct an administrative error we have been carrying for years. The maintenance fees. Those $200 a month that were being debited from my pension account. Ashley turned pale. She knew exactly how much the maintenance cost for her luxury building. Gym, swimming pool, armed security, landscaped gardens. I informed them that starting next month, the occupant of the unit, meaning you, will handle the payments. And since today is already the 20th, the next payment is due in 10 days. I suggest you start saving up. They are very strict with late payers. I believe they shut off the water after 5 days of delay. And access to the parking garage, well, it would be a shame if you had to leave your car on the street. Ashley dropped the black bag. It fell to the floor with a thud. "You cannot do that," she stammered. "I cannot afford that. Business has been slow. Mom, please. $200 is a lot of money." "Welcome to the real world, my child," I said, walking slowly down the hallway leading to my bedroom. In the real world, things cost money. Comfort costs money. Security costs money. And respect is earned. "Mom, you cannot leave me like this," she screamed behind me. "Mom, come back here. I am hungry." I stopped in the doorway of my bedroom. I did not turn around. There are saltine crackers in the pantry and chamomile tea. It is good for the nerves and for hunger. I walked into my room and locked the door behind me. I heard her muffled screams. Then came the crying, that manipulative weeping that had broken my heart so many times before. But tonight, my heart was armored. I walked over to the bed and sat down carefully. The effort of the argument had left me exhausted. I could feel the stitches pulling at my skin, a warning that I had gone too far with my physical activity. But my mind was clear. I heard heavy footsteps in the living room. Then the sound of the front door slamming so hard that the windows vibrated. Then the car engine starting up with an aggressive roar and speeding away. She was gone. I was left alone in the dark of my room, surrounded by my papers, my reclaimed financial security, and my mended dignity. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling. A single tear escaped from the corner of my eye and soaked the pillow. I was crying for the daughter I thought I had, for the sweet little girl who once drew pictures for me with crayons. But that little girl no longer existed. The woman who walked out of here was a stranger who needed to learn a very hard lesson. And this was only the beginning. Today, I took away her credit and her comfort. Tomorrow, I would go after the inheritance. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in years, I did not pray for Ashley to succeed in everything. I prayed that she would have the strength to learn how to survive when the ground opened up beneath her feet. Because I was the one holding the shovel, and I was just getting started. The sound of my breathing filled the room. Tomorrow would be another day, and I had an appointment with a lawyer. The next morning dawned cloudy, with that gray light that usually makes people sad. But to me, it felt perfect for what I had to do. I got up early, ignoring the sharp pull in my lower abdomen that was still there, faithful as a painful shadow. I took my painkillers with a cup of strong black coffee, and I dressed not in a sick person's robe, but in a navy blue tailored suit I used to wear for important hospital board meetings. I put on a little makeup to hide my paleness and looked at myself in the mirror. There was no trace left of yesterday's vulnerable old woman. Today I looked like what I truly was, the owner of everything. At 9 o'clock sharp, I was in the office of the estate lawyer, Mr. Gomez. It was a quick meeting. He tried to dissuade me, using that condescending tone legal men use when they see an older woman making drastic decisions. "Are you sure, Mrs. Sarah? This is a very final measure." I simply signed the papers with a steady hand that did not shake even once. When I walked out of there with the folder under my arm, I felt like it weighed less than air. I returned home around noon. I sat in my armchair, placed the folder on the coffee table, and waited. I knew the phone would ring at any moment. I had moved the pieces on the board, and now it was the dethroned queen's turn. I did not have to wait long. At 12:30, my cell phone started vibrating on the wooden table. "Daughter" appeared on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering, taking a deep breath. "Yes?" I said, cold and dry. Mom, this is the absolute last straw. Ashley's voice was a hysterical shriek that nearly shattered my eardrum. I am at the entrance of the building and the gate will not lift. The guard says my access key fob is blocked. There is a line of cars behind me honking their horns. It is so embarrassing. I smiled, a small, sad smile. Hello, Ashley. Good morning to you, too. Cut the pleasantries, she yelled. Fix this right now. The stupid guard says there is an administrative hold for non-payment or something. Tell them to let me in. I need to go up and change. The guard is not stupid, Ashley. He is just doing his job. And he is right. I gave the order yesterday. As I informed you, from now on, the maintenance fees are your responsibility. And since there is an unpaid balance that I refuse to cover automatically this month, the system blocked your access to the common areas. That includes the parking garage. There was silence on the other end, only broken by the distant sound of impatient car horns. Are you telling me I cannot drive my car into my own home? Into my home, Ashley, into my apartment. And yes, that is what I am telling you. The condo rules are clear. If you do not pay, you do not enter with a vehicle. You will have to find street parking. On the street? Someone is going to scratch my car. It is a dangerous area. Mom, this is ridiculous. Unblock it right now. No. What do you mean, no? No. That short little word I never said to you when you were a child, which you are now going to learn the hard way. I am not paying a single penny more for that maintenance. If you want to drive in, get out of the car. Walk to the management office and pay what is owed. It is $200 plus late fees. I do not have $200 in cash right now. Her voice cracked, shifting from fury to panic. You canceled my credit card yesterday. I have no way to pay. Then you will have to leave the car outside and walk, just like I had to walk toward a taxi yesterday with my abdomen cut open. Life is tough, isn't it? I hate you, she screamed and hung up. I looked at the phone and felt a pang in my heart, but I did not allow myself to cry. Hatred is better than indifference. At least hatred requires energy. It requires acknowledgement. Until yesterday, I was invisible to her, just a piece of furniture that dispensed money. Today, I was the villain. I preferred being the villain to being the victim. I knew she would come. Ashley is not the type to surrender to an obstacle. She is the type to march over and demand to speak to the manager, and the manager was waiting for her. Half an hour later, I heard a car engine brake hard outside my house. She did not pull into the driveway. She left it on the street, probably illegally parked. The slamming of the car door echoed like a gunshot. She barged into the house like a hurricane. Her hair was messy, her makeup was smeared, and her eyes were bloodshot. She looked, for the first time in years, real. No Instagram filters, no rich girl poses. She looked desperate. You, she pointed a finger at me, walking toward me with threatening steps. You have completely lost your mind. I am calling a doctor to evaluate you. This is senile dementia. You are attacking me. I stayed seated, elegantly crossing my legs, protecting my stitches with a throw pillow on my lap. Sit down, Ashley, and lower your voice. The neighbors do not need to hear your temper tantrums. It is not a tantrum. She grabbed her head with her hands. You humiliated me in front of the guards. I had to leave the car 3 blocks away. I walked under the scorching sun. Welcome to my world yesterday, I said coldly. Did they offer you a seat on the bus, or did they tell you to take one too? She stopped dead in her tracks, breathing heavily. She collapsed onto the sofa across from me, looking at me as if I were a monster. Mom, seriously, what is wrong with you? I understand you are hurt about the hospital thing. I am apologizing, okay? I am sorry. There, I said it. I made a mistake. I was stressed about my hair. I did not think. But you cannot destroy my life over one mistake. Give me back the credit card and pay the maintenance. I promise I will visit you more often. Her apology sounded hollow, like fake coins dropping into an empty piggy bank. I will visit you more often, as if her presence were a divine gift that I had to pay a monthly subscription for. This is not about visits, Ashley. This is about consequences, and you have not seen anything yet. I pointed to the folder on the table. Open it. Ashley looked at the beige folder with suspicion. What is this? Your future, or what is left of it. She reached out and picked up the documents. Her eyes scanned the first few lines. I saw the exact moment comprehension hit her brain. Her pupils dilated. Her mouth opened slightly. A will? She whispered. Revocation of beneficiaries? Mom, what did you do? Read it out loud, clause number 3. Ashley swallowed hard. Her hands began to tremble, making the paper crinkle. I hereby revoke any previous disposition in favor of my daughter, Ashley Mendez Guzman, and designate as universal heir to all my assets, real estate and personal property, as well as sole beneficiary of my life insurance. She stopped, looking up, pale as wax. To the Red Cross? To the Cancer Research Foundation? Mom, this is a fortune. It is the house. It is the apartment. It is your entire savings. Exactly. You cannot disinherit me. I am your only daughter. It is illegal. No, it is not illegal. In this country, I have freedom of testation. Everything I have, I built myself, along with your father. And since you are already a 35-year-old independent professional woman, I assumed you did not need help from this crazy old lady. Ashley threw the papers onto the table as if they burned her. This is blackmail. You are doing this to scare me. Tomorrow you are going to change it back. No, Ashley, I am not changing it back. It is already notarized, and the life insurance company has already been notified. If I die of anger today, you walk away with whatever you are wearing right now. Nothing more. She began to cry, but this time it was not a manipulative cry. It was a cry of pure terror, the terror of someone watching the house of cards they built their entire life upon collapse into dust. But what about me? She whimpered. What am I going to do? My business does not make enough to live on, Mom. You know that. I barely make enough to pay my employees' salaries. I live on your financial help. If you take away the apartment and the money, I am going to end up on the street. Then I suggest you find a job, a real job, one with regular hours, a boss, and a fixed salary. You have a college degree that I paid for, hanging up as decoration. Use it. Nobody is going to hire me. I am 35 years old with 0 real work experience. It is never too late to start. I started from 0 when your father died. You can do the same. Ashley stood up, wiping her tears with rage. Her fear was turning back into aggression. I am not going to allow this. I am going to contest the will. I will say you were not in your right mind because of the surgery and the medications. Try it, I said calmly, interlacing my fingers. My doctor already signed a certificate of full mental competency this morning, and the estate lawyer witnessed it. You will waste the money you do not have on lawyers who are going to lose. She stood frozen in the middle of the living room, looking around. She looked at the furniture, the paintings, the lamps, everything she had always considered hers by divine right. Now all of it had an owner, and it was not her. You are evil, she spat with venom. You are a bitter old woman. I am glad I left you at the hospital. You deserved it. That sentence hurt. It hurt worse than the stitches. I felt my blood turn cold. If there was any lingering doubt inside me, any small hope that she would come to her senses out of love, that sentence killed it instantly. I stood up slowly. The physical pain was sharp, but my posture was erect. I walked until I was standing right in front of her. Give me the keys, I said, holding out my open hand. What? The car keys. The car is mine, she yelled, clutching her handbag against her chest. No, Ashley, the car is under my name. I pay the insurance. I paid the purchase agreement. You just drive it. And given that you just told me I deserve to be abandoned at a hospital with an open wound, I think you have lost the privilege of using my property. I am not giving them to you. She backed toward the door. I am leaving, and you are never going to see me again. If you drive away in that car, I will call the police and report it stolen, I said, with a calm that terrified even me. I have the registration papers right here. And believe me, Mike, the guard at the hospital and John, the taxi driver, will be thrilled to testify about how you treat your mother. Do you want to add a criminal record to your situation? Ashley froze, her hand on the doorknob. She looked at me, searching for any trace of doubt in my eyes. She found nothing. She only saw the head nurse who had dealt with addicts, violent drunks, and arrogant doctors for 40 years. She saw a wall of granite. Slowly, her hands shaking with helpless rage, she opened her purse. She pulled out the key fob with the German luxury emblem. She threw it onto the floor at my feet. The metallic clatter echoed in the quiet living room like a sentence being passed. "I hope you rot with your money," she spat. "Money does not rot, sweetheart. What rots is the soul when a person is ungrateful." Ashley opened the door. The afternoon sun poured in, illuminating her defeated yet arrogant figure. "And how am I supposed to leave now?" she asked, turning around one last time. "I have no car. I have no credit card. I have no money." I bent down with difficulty, letting out an involuntary groan, and picked up the keys from the floor. I felt powerful holding them in my hand. They were heavy. They weighed like justice. I walked over to the entryway table, opened a drawer, and pulled out a $10 bill. I walked toward her and held it out. "Take this," I said. She looked at the crumpled bill with disgust. "What is this?" "The bus fare," I answered, staring directly into her eyes. "The one down the avenue passes every 15 minutes. It drops you off right on the corner of your house, and if you are lucky enough to get a seat, you can even enjoy the view. It is very educational to see the world from a bus window. You learn humility." Ashley stared at me with her mouth open. Her face turned from red to ghost white. For a second, I thought she was going to strike me, but she didn't. She snatched the bill from my hand with a sharp movement, her long nails scraping my palm. "This is not over," she muttered between her teeth. "I certainly hope so," I said. "I hope it changes. But that change depends on you, not me." She stepped outside and slammed the door so hard the window panes rattled. I watched her through the sheer curtains. I watched her walk down my garden path, her designer heels sinking into the dirt, her brand-name purse slung over her shoulder, holding a $10 bill in her hand. I saw her reach the sidewalk, look over toward where my car was parked, and then, with her shoulders slouched, begin walking toward the bus stop. I stood there until I lost sight of her. Silence returned to the house. But it was no longer a heavy silence. It was a clean silence. I walked back to the living room. I poured myself a glass of water and took another painkiller. The adrenaline was wearing off and the surgical pain was reclaiming its space. I sat on the sofa, exhausted but strangely whole. I looked at the folder on the table. I had not lied. Everything was designated to the Red Cross. But there was a small clause she had not read. A small clause at the very end stating that the will could be revoked if the beneficiary demonstrated, in the judgment of a committee, that she had changed her behavior and taken responsibility for her actions for a period of no less than 2 years. I had not disinherited her out of hatred. I disinherited her to save her, to force her to grow up. If she managed to survive out there in the real world without my safety net, maybe, just maybe, I would get back the daughter I lost years ago. And if not, well, at least my money would serve to help people who truly needed it. I looked at the car keys in my hand. Tomorrow, I would list the car for sale. I did not need such a large vehicle. With the proceeds, I would fix up the garden and maybe go on a trip once my stitches were removed. The phone rang again. It was Mr. Martinez from the bank. "Mrs. Sarah, excuse the intrusion. I see a recurring charge attempt for Netflix on the canceled card. Do you authorize it?" I burst out laughing. A laugh that hurt my stomach, but healed my soul. "No, Mr. Martinez, I do not authorize it. Let her watch broadcast television. They say soap operas are very entertaining." I hung up. Evening was falling gently over my house. I was alone, sore, and old, but for the first time in a long time, I was free. And Ashley was about to discover that the bus waits for no one, not even dethroned princesses. Tomorrow, the real test would begin, because breaking things is easy. Holding the broken pieces without cutting yourself is the hard part. And I was willing to bleed a little more if it meant my daughter would stop being a parasite and finally become a woman. I closed my eyes and listened to the wind in the trees. It sounded like victory. 6 months have passed since that afternoon when the dry wind hit my face outside the hospital. Today, the air coming through my kitchen window smells of rain-soaked earth and fresh, blooming jasmine. The scar on my stomach is nothing more than a fine silver line now. A quiet reminder on my skin that no longer hurts to the touch, but still serves its purpose as my personal history. I run my fingers over that mark every morning before getting dressed, not with pity, but with gratitude. It was through that wound that the submissive Sarah escaped, and the woman who now calmly drinks her coffee walked in, watching the sun illuminate tiles that shine because I want them to shine, not because I am expecting visitors. My life moves at a different pace now. Before, my time was measured by Ashley's needs, her phone calls, her crises, her cravings, her debts. Now my time is measured by the cups of tea I enjoy, the pages of the books I am finally reading, and the Thursday gatherings with my new friends. I sold the large SUV 4 months ago. I did not need it. With the money, I repaired the roof of the house, replaced the failing water heater, and bought a small, compact, fuel-efficient cherry red car that Ashley thought was ridiculous for a woman my age. I laughed right in her face when she told me that. I love that it is ridiculous. I love that it is mine. It is 10 in the morning. I hear the doorbell ring. It is not the impatient sound of keys turning in the lock, because I changed the deadbolts the week after our fight. Now, if my daughter wants to enter her mother's house, she has to ring the bell and wait until I decide to open the door. It is a small detail, but psychologically it is a fortress wall. I wipe my hands on my apron and go to open it. Ashley is standing on the porch. She looks different. The flawless ash blonde hair is gone. Now she wears her natural brown hair pulled back into a practical ponytail. She is not wearing designer clothes, just simple denim jeans and a white cotton blouse. She looks thinner, but not that expensive gym thin. The thinness of someone who walks a lot and eats just enough. "Hi, Mom," she says. Her tone no longer has that demanding edge. She sounds tired. "Hi, honey, come in. I was just about to cut up some fruit." She steps inside and wipes her shoes on the doormat with exaggerated care. Before, she would have marched right in, dragging mud without a care in the world. I observe her as she walks toward the kitchen. She carries a reusable canvas tote bag on her shoulder, not the designer handbag that cost as much as a new refrigerator. We sit at the table. I pour her coffee. She takes it black, no sugar. Before, she used to demand frothed almond milk. "How are you?" I ask, sitting across from her. "Tired," she admits, rubbing her ankles. The retail shift at the clothing store is rough, standing on my feet for 8 hours serving people. I did not know people could be so rude, Mom. Yesterday, a woman screamed at me because we did not have her size, and she threw the clothes onto the floor. I had to bend down to pick them up while she glared at me. I smile on the inside, a smile that does not reach my lips, but warms my chest. Poetic justice, they call it. People sometimes forget that the person serving them is a human being, I say gently. It is hard to serve. I did it for 40 years at the hospital. It requires patience. Ashley looks at me, and I see a flicker of recognition in her eyes. For the first time, she seems to understand that what I did was not just giving injections, but swallowing my daily pride to put food on the table. "Yes, it requires patience," she sighs. "And the store manager is an idiot. He docked my pay the day I was late because the bus broke down." There it is, the magic word. Bus. Public transportation has its tricks, I comment, taking a sip from my cup. You have to leave with a 30-minute buffer. I learned that now, she says, resigned. Now I leave at 6:30 in the morning. Mom, seriously, my feet are killing me. I do not know how you survive double shifts. With comfortable shoes and knowing that the hard work was worth it, I answer, looking her dead in the eye. Is your paycheck enough to cover your expenses? It is the test question. 3 months ago, this question would have been the prelude to asking for a loan. Ashley looks down at her cup. She plays with the handle. Barely. I pay the rent for the apartment. Well, the maintenance fee that I pay myself now. Electricity, water, and groceries. I have nothing left over. I had to cancel the gym membership and my unlimited cell phone data plan. Now I only use Wi-Fi. That is what happens when you start out, I say, without offering her a single dollar. But it is your own money. Nobody can throw it in your face. She looks up and nods slowly. I brought this, she says, pulling a package wrapped in wax paper from her canvas bag. They are oatmeal cookies. A coworker made them and sells them to make extra money. I bought 3. I thought you might like them with your coffee. I stare at the package. They are homemade, uneven cookies. Nothing like the French pastries Ashley used to bring using my money, only to complain that they were dry. These were paid for by her, with her earnings as a retail worker, with the money she earned through aching feet. I feel a lump in my throat, but I do not cry. I reach out and take a cookie. Thank you, honey. They look delicious. We eat in silence for a moment. It is not the hostile silence of that steak dinner months ago. It is a truce. Ashley has not regained her luxuries, and I know deep down she misses her princess lifestyle. Sometimes I catch her looking at my new car with nostalgia, or sighing when she sees my decorations. But she has survived. She did not starve to death. She did not end up living under a bridge. The human spirit is adaptable, and my daughter, to my surprise and hidden pride, is proving that she has some of my resilient blood after all. Mom, she begins, and I know something difficult is coming. Tell me. The other day I stopped by the bank. I saw Mr. Martinez. I tense up slightly. Oh, really? He greeted me very kindly, but he looked at me with pity. He told me you look great, very active with your new investments. That is right. Mr. Martinez has been helping me restructure my portfolio. Mom, about the will. Ashley hesitates, biting her lower lip. I am not going to ask you to change it. Truly. I understand why you did it. I think I deserved it. What I did at the hospital was despicable. I know that now. I place my cup back on the saucer with a soft clink. It was a lesson, Ashley. Painful for both of us. I know. I just wanted to tell you that if one day you decide to reconsider, it will not be so I can stop working. I do not want to be a parasite anymore. It feels terrible to depend on someone. It feels unsafe. I look at her carefully. That was the transformation I was looking for. Not obedience, but dignity. The will remains under the Red Cross, Ashley, and that is how it will stay for now. But I have set up a small trust. Nothing extravagant. If you demonstrate consistency in your job and financial responsibility for 2 consecutive years, that trust will activate to help you, perhaps with a down payment on your own home. Not mine, yours. Ashley's eyes fill with tears, not of greed, but of relief. Thank you, Mom, truly. Do not thank me yet. You have to last 2 years. And believe me, Mr. Martinez is going to audit every single move. No maxed out credit cards. I do not have credit cards, she laughs. A dry but honest laugh. Nobody will give me one with my current salary. Good. A person sleeps much better without debt. When Ashley leaves half an hour later, I walk her to the door. I watch her walk toward the bus stop. She does not complain. She adjusts the bag on her shoulder, checks her watch, and quickens her pace so she does not miss the 11:15 bus. I watch her get onto the vehicle, pay her fare, and find a seat by the window. The bus pulls away, blowing a cloud of gray exhaust, carrying my daughter off toward her real life. I close the door and take a deep breath. Mission accomplished. for today. But my day does not end there. I have an appointment. I change out of my house shoes into comfortable loafers, grab my purse and the keys to my red car. I drive to the neighborhood community center, a place I did not even know existed before. When I walk in, the hum of voices greets me. "Mrs. Sarah is here," shouts a short, gray-haired woman from a table piled high with paperwork. "Come over here. We do not understand the fine print on this insurance policy." I smile and walk over. For 3 months now, I have been a volunteer in the Seniors First program. It is a lighthearted name, but the work is serious. We meet twice a week to advise seniors on how to protect their assets, how to read bank statements, and most importantly, how to spot financial abuse, even when it comes from their own family, especially when it comes from family. I sit next to Carmen, a 75-year-old woman who was crying last week because her grandson had drained her pension account to invest in cryptocurrency. "Let me see that, Carmen." I put on my glasses and review the document. "No, dear. This is not an insurance policy. This is an automatic debit authorization. If you sign this, you are giving the bank permission to withdraw whatever they want." "Oh, sweet Lord!" Carmen exclaims. "And the young man at the bank told me it was just to update my information." Never trust words, trust the paper, I tell them all, raising my voice so the table next to us can hear. And if you do not understand it, do not sign it. Call me or tell the manager to wait. The money belongs to you. It cost you your knees, your backs, and your years. It is not for anyone else's whims. I watch them nod. I see in their eyes the same fear I used to have, that mix of blind love and dread of loneliness that makes us vulnerable. "Sarah," says Lupe, another volunteer, "but if we say no to our children, then they stop coming to visit us. We are left all alone." That is the core wound, the fear of abandonment. "Lupe," I take her hand. Her fingers are cold and wrinkled like tissue paper. "If your children only come to see you when you give them money, then they are not visiting you. They are visiting your wallet. And believe me, it is better to be alone with your dignity and enough money to pay for a good nurse in the future than to be alone, poor, and having raised ungrateful brats." A thoughtful silence settles over the table. It is harsh to say, but someone has to say it. I am living proof that you can break the cycle and survive. In fact, you can thrive. "My daughter came over today," I tell them, lowering my voice a bit. "She brought me some cookies, paid for with her own money." "The same one who left you at the hospital?" Carmen asks with wide eyes. "The very same. She is working as a retail clerk now, takes the bus, and for the first time in years, we looked each other in the eye like two adults, not like an ATM and a customer." "And did you forgive her?" Lupe asks. I think about the answer. Forgiveness is not an event, it is a process. "I am educating her," I answer. "Forgiveness will come when the lesson is complete. For now we respect each other, and that is worth far more than false forgiveness." I leave the community center with a full heart. I feel useful. I feel strong. I am not a disposable old woman. I am a strategist, a mentor, a woman who took the reins of her destiny when everyone expected her to curl up and die of grief. On the way home, I stop by the grocery store. I buy a bottle of wine, some good cheese, and grapes. Today I am celebrating my 6-month milestone, the anniversary of my surgery and my rebirth. I arrive home at sunset. The garden looks gorgeous. The bougainvillea I planted has climbed up the iron gate, exploding in vibrant magenta. I park my red car in the garage. I step into my sanctuary. As I pour myself a glass of wine, I think about Ashley. I think about her aching feet and her wounded pride. I am doing her the biggest favor of her life, even if she still views it as a punishment. David would be proud, or maybe he would be terrified of me. Probably both. I sit on the porch to watch the evening roll in. I pull out my cell phone. Not to wait for a call, but to check my travel itinerary. Next week, I am going on a trip.